microphone, or there's a couple more here if you'd like them. What I'd like to do, first of all, I guess, maybe more for me even than you, but let's just take a minute to quiet down, center, and just reflect for just a minute or so. This is such a joyous congregation. It's sometimes hard to just step back and from the happiness of just knowing everybody and seeing everybody. After that moment, if there's someone who would be willing to read the gospel for this morning, I'd appreciate it. Anyone want to volunteer to do that? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the verses. Yes, it is Matthew 9:35 through 10:8. Anybody who's willing to read? Oh, Penny, thank you very much.
Compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles: first Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment.
Thank you. So was anybody not here? Is everybody here for the 9 o'clock? Has everybody already heard this morning? Is there anybody who hasn't yet? So now we heard it at church. We've heard it here. And just to really set it in, and I realize this may sound like, overly repetitive, I'd like us to read it one more time before we start discussing. So is there anyone else who would be willing to read the gospel again, please? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Which verse is it again?
Oh, it is Matthew 9:35 through 10:8.
And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." And he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. The names of the 12 disciples are these: first Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out, instructing them Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no towns of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and proclaim as you go, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You receive without paying, give without paying. Acquire no gold, nor silver, nor copper for your belts. No bag for your journey, nor tunics, nor sandals, nor a staff, for the laborer deserves his food.
I think there was a longer reading if we wanted. I think we'll go ahead and I know that they stopped it there at church today, so we'll take that. Thank you very much. So now you've heard it maybe more times than you've ever heard it, at least in a row. And just thinking about it, when you have read the words, you've heard a sermon behind it, what do you notice about what you read? Was there anything that stood out? Any images? Any words? Anything that happened?
You know, the one thing that I was wondering why, I made up 5 reasons why. Do not go amongst the Gentiles or the Samaritans. Why did Jesus tell them not to go to the Gentiles? Well, they were supposed to spread the word to everybody.
Great question.
I don't know the answer. I made 3 up.
Okay, what are the ones you made up?
I guess the only thing I could think is Jesus was like, let's not go make a mess right now with the Gentiles and get Israel in order, and then we'll go and speak to the Gentiles. Is probably the only thing that made sense, but I don't know. I just made that up.
And I don't know if it's luckily or not. I don't think we have any clergy in the room right now, so we get to decide how this operates.
We're fully allowed to make up our own answer.
And amazingly, I think this is
we
even,
don't like the Gentiles.
because I had thought of it as don't go where people are already, they're already saved, or they're already the ones who are the rule followers. Go where there's, where people need a hospital. Go where people need the help.
But
I don't know,
was that
but
true at that time? Because this is at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, so I didn't think the Gentiles.
Oh, that's a good. Not just the Samaritan, but the Gentile.
I don't know. That's.
Room? Do we have? Please.
I actually have commentary.
I like.
So,
Commentary's good.
so the commentary says, why didn't Jesus send the disciples to the Gentiles or the Samaritans? A Gentile is anyone who is not a Jew. The Samaritans were a race that resulted from intermarriage between Jews and Gentiles after the Old Testament Captivites. Jesus asked his disciples to go only to the Jews because he came first to the Jews. God chose them to tell the rest of the world about him. Jewish disciples and apostles preached the gospel of the risen Christ all around the Roman Empire, and soon Gentiles were pouring into the church. The Bible clearly teaches that God's message of salvation is for all people, regardless of race, sex, or national origin. So my take is the Israelites are God's chosen people, so they're already expecting the Messiah, so start with them and then spread the word.
Cooper, you had a thought?
Not official. Learned it.
Okay, I want to say this is not Tina Light. This is Koopa. It's his own.
So the way I think about this is, I think about this as an engineer, right? Like as a, which is kind of my training,
I hear you,
which
brother.
is that usually when you have somebody starting out in their career, you give them something that they are ready to take on, right? That's an appropriate level of challenge for them before you escalate to like something that's much harder, right? And if you look at like what happens with like Acts much later on with like both Peter and Paul, like there's like a lot of like stuff that needs to happen before even those guys seem ready to like to like go and start talking to the Gentile. And so if like this is the first time Jesus is setting people out after this period of ministry, it would just be like, to me it would seem like I would not send a junior engineer out to deal with a problem that like you need a principal engineer for, right? And that's sort of the way I think about it.
It's a pilot plant, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I'm watching right now, rewatching one of my favorite BBC shows called Loch Rise to Candleford. I don't know if any of y'all ever seen it. It's kind of like Downton Abbey, but in a village area. And Loch Rise is the poor town 8 miles away is Candleford, which is the more wealthy town. And there's a episode, and the reason why I love this show is because of the community that happens. You know, the poor in Loch Rise, if someone has no food, then those who have very little food will give some of their food to them to help. But there's one episode where it was the harvest time, which was really important to this to Loch Rise, because as they go and gather up the wheat, you know, this is pre-industrial, so there's no tractors or anything. So as they're cutting the wheat, there's people, the women usually follow behind to pick up any seeds and stuff, any grains that isn't harvested, and that's how they make it through the winter. Well, measles hit the community, and they're trying to figure out how do we have people to take care of our children, and we need the women gathering the wheat, and we're not going to have enough to eat, and we're going to starve, and da 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 da. And that makes it to Candleford, and a bunch of them come together, and they walk the 8 miles. They go and they help them, and to me, I don't know. That's a feel-good show to me because it shows community. You know, you have people who have to do, who are encouraged to go and help those who don't. And I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm seeing in this scripture.
Thank you. Anyone else with things you noticed in the text? Any other thoughts? Oh, please, yes.
He uses a lot of metaphors and analogies, but the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. That kind of,
It spoke, yeah.
you know, they're not really prepared yet, but he just felt like after he saw everybody struggling so that he needed to go ahead and get their feet wet because the laborers are few. So
Yeah, go get started. That's one of the things that I had read when I was reading about this was when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them. And what I was reading made the point that compassion is actually a very active word, that this is a great welling of love and just an almost physical need to surround and to support and be love for people. And I thought, wow, I use the word a lot, and I feel it, but I don't know that I ever thought of it as quite the encircling, the creation of community, essentially, just almost by just putting them in your arms. Thank you. Anybody else? Penny.
The last sentence of the last verse, you received without payment, give without payment. Kind of like pay it forward.
Any thoughts about that? That's one, and it was an interesting place to end that, which is very just, you are not, I'll way terribly paraphrase, but you didn't earn this, you don't own it, it's not something that you deserve, you got this without payment, you need to give without payment. Just, it seems very stark. And pay it forward I feel like that's a newer term that we use a lot now, which I like that because it just says it, doesn't it? It's not a matter of, I just feel like this is the whole United States sometimes. It is, we're born on third base, and how many of us think we hit a triple? And there's that sense of thinking that this is the baseline. This is my, my minimum, right? This is, I deserve, in a sense, and again, I ain't looking at anybody, but we're all looking in a mirror of that. This is what we know. Therefore, everything else is with that as kind of that's what we do. That's what I deserve. That's what it is. Interesting.
can I ask a question?
Please.
So I'm wondering about that, and I don't know, so maybe somebody else knows, back then, would it be the standard for them to have been paid? And so he's telling them to break the mold of that?
That's a
I don't know.
very interesting question.
Yeah, but you have to think about the verse ahead of that. He sends them out and tells them to heal the sick and raise the dead. I mean, like, hey, you guys, he's like, he just picked these 12, in the previous chapter. And then he sprinkles a little water on them and go out and raise the dead. I mean, that's a lot.
That's a big
but I
call.
could see also people with, you got a dead body here and we raise it from the dead. Maybe people would be wanting to pay them, and I was actually more impressed with how the heck did they pull it off?
Pull it off. Say more
Raise
about
the dead.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It's like, hey, you guys. No Gentiles, of course, but we'll find.
Well, again, we'll start with
find
the home
some
team.
Some
Yeah.
Israeli people.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
pop them up.
this is something, and I know that as we've been going through the readings over the past few weeks, we certainly have seen a lot about what Jesus did. Right? We watched him raise someone for the little girl raised from the dead. He has healed the woman who touched his cloak and the bleeding side. It almost feels like he was doing the demonstration, and I'll just say it in real human terms, right? The demonstration to say, I'm real. This is a big deal, right? I'm not just telling you about eternal life, God, and repent. I'll show you that I'm not the same old guy who steps up on the podium every week and says, the end is near. And then he deputizes people to do more of that. It still almost feels like, and again, I'm going to come back to the engineering, I guess, it's almost like use cases. It's like we need to show people. It's not going to be enough to say, I am God, believe in me and follow me and take up your, drop your nets, leave your family, whatever. You got to have some. You got to have some. As a kid, I always wanted God to flick the lights. I was that one going, if you would just do that one time when I'm watching, I'm yours forever. And A, it never happened. But B, maybe that's how it happened.
But I think that had more to do with the power.
It may very well have had, yeah. But yeah, it does seem like we need to make sure. I don't feel like we've been seeing raising the dead and curing lepers for 2,000 years. I mean, I guess you could say there are miracles, there are lots of things, but that's not something that we hear a lot about, see a lot about. Maybe I'm wrong there. But we can go back and say, Jesus was here, died, rose, and ascended to heaven, and there really were, according to the book, a lot of those things that happened. At least 12 plus Jesus were deputized, were enabled to do that. So I was kind of just wondering, is it because we really do sometimes need to just see things very, very clearly, and then kind of that makes it a little easier to hold on to them? I mean, we're holding on to it in a sense 2,000 years later. I don't know. That was a thought I had. Any other thoughts on what that or anything else that you read in this passage? Please.
Something else I read in verse 37, it says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. It's interesting that Jesus doesn't ask disciples to become laborers. And he doesn't ask them to go out and to harvest. He asks them to go and find more laborers instead. Do we know why he says, no, I don't want you to become the laborers. Instead, I want you to go out and find more laborers?
It's a good question. What comes to your mind as you say that question?
I mean, I suppose that kind of goes with kind of the spreading the word and trying to find more people. But then it says kind of to the point of cure the sick and raise the dead. You want them to do that, but you don't want them to become laborers and just harvest, which is kind of an easier task to do. That was kind of, yeah.
I think he's thinking those is the same thing. I think he's telling the disciples to do miracles and all that because his harvest is bringing people to God and Jesus. So he wants them to perform these miracles so that they will believe in Jesus, believe in God, and come to the faith. So I think he is telling them to harvest, but not in the literal sense. Again, it's the analogy. But I think he's sending the 12 out. The field is plentiful. There's a lot of people out there. That's the plentiful. A lot of people out there that need God, that need the faith. And please go out and bring them to me, and do it by doing acts of these miracles and getting their attention. I think that's the gist of it.
And then you had another.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the Larkrise example. I think what he's doing is he's sending them out to be leaders, because in the Larkrise, when they're harvesting the field, there's a lot of harvesters, but there's one person who is singing the song, who's leading them to keep up the pace and to encourage them to keep working. Hey, you, what are you doing when you come on back over here? So there's one person who's leading 30 people, and I think that's what I think of, is that they're being instructed to be leaders and teachers.
I think there's a couple of different things maybe going on in that thought process that you have about sending them out to find more laborers, not necessarily to find more laborers, but to create more what we're now calling leaders. And that is in terms of part of us entering into the covenant with Christ and God is doing it of our own accord. And so we can't just be tapped and hired to do it, per se, like a laborer would be. So instead, he's creating people who are already have made that commitment and have that understanding in some form, and encouraging them to go and share their experience with others. And that's what we're all kind of asked to do, is to go forth and share the good news of God and Christ and the love of God and Christ. And we say that every week before we leave here, right? Go forth into the world, right? So it's not necessarily that we're going out to just hire more people, tap them and say, come on in. I mean, but we're going out to be examples and to be the leaders, to show what is possible, how things can be different, how we can be different, and how entering into that covenant has changed our own lives, possibly.
You know, it comes to mind as we're all talking here, and my wife will feel very familiar with how my analogies get kind of silly sometimes, but it occurs to me that we all know about multi-level marketing, right? We've always, the whole thing with Amway or whatever pitch you might have had. And my apologies if you're actively involved in any of these right now. Rock and roll, you do you. The virtuous side of that, though, is to do both. I'm out there selling the soap, if you will, and I'm also trying to recruit more people. Come on in. Absolutely. Very good to sell the soap and very good to find more people. Right? It means the pie is expanding. It means there's not just plenty for all, but the more we do, the more we all do, physically do, the more we create. And so, again, I don't want to belabor, an oddball analogy, but, it is an interesting thing that so it's kind of a both and right there. That I did get right, Paula. It's a both and where you are an instructor, you are being called for something more, and you're being called, that's part of the job, and so it feels very virtuous, and it feels like a lot of the way that lots of things operate. You have, a level of knowledge, you bring in some with lesser knowledge, you grow them to greater knowledge. Now, we're seeing just like the very beginning. It's like a startup, right? It's like a very beginning of this, which I have thought about that a lot. How did we get from here's 12 to today? But that's probably a task for another day. But that's a pretty amazing thing.
That commercial from when I was younger, any Gen X or older will probably remember. And she told two friends, and she told two friends, and she told two friends. That shampoo commercial. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's the
beginning of multi-level marketing.
Yep. And, and honestly, that is how things grow. It really is. So please, we have, I don't want to stop any conversation.
Sorry, I just wanted to.
Please.
The other thing that jumped out was, and he not only called them, but he gave them authority. And I think along with the sending out the newbie out to do the easy job, I think it also, if I were a disciple, it's like, okay, he's doing that, but I'm just a regular person. And so he's showing them that they can do it too, to build some kind of confidence that later on when they get full authority from the Holy Spirit, that they have confidence they can go out and do those things. I think later on it talks about them coming back being so excited about what they accomplished and so surprised that they could do it. So, it also, but giving them authority, it was maybe limited authority, but he just said, yep, you got the authority, go ahead and do it. And there wasn't any tongues of fire or anything. It was just Jesus letting them know they would be able to do
Here's
these
your little badge.
things.
Here's the badge.
Yeah.
Go ahead and There's something in there about confidence and competence. I know that's a business thing somewhere about you better have both in the end, but you usually start with one or the other. Cooper, you had something.
Yeah, it's something that jumped out to me is actually in chapter 10, I guess it's verse 2 and 3, when they list the apostles out. So I don't know if it's just my translation, I'm reading ESV, but the disciples are listed in pairs. So it's actually not a list of 12 individuals, it's a list of 6 pairs, right? So they're and some of them are brothers, and I have brothers. I remember a few years ago we were trying to decide on an Airbnb together for our 2 families, and it was impossible. So sending me it meant you called me and my brother to go and do this for the first time. I don't know if that would be a good idea, but clearly this is how this is structured. But the thing that it tells me is I don't think the model that Jesus is giving us is that we're supposed to be alone when we are moving forward, right? He gives us each other, right? And I think that's a very important,
I think that is, and go back. I am truly the grade school catechism kid, and that's probably about as far as my actual education went. But wherever 2 or more are gathered, it's almost like too easy to just say that comes back to that time and time again. It's not just you. It's never just you. It's community. Whether the community is 2 or whether community is 200 or even coming from a big old St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church, 2,000, 3,000, whatever it is community. Yeah. So other comments, questions, thoughts that come up? Because the next thing is, and this may sound like the same question, but I don't think it is, which is, what do you hear the text saying? So when you're thinking about, when you look back on the gospel, is it telling you yourself, today, something that you needed to hear or some sort of call to action? Is there anything in there that the text is saying to you? I didn't realize, but one of the reasons I think I'm sitting up here today is I just don't know any other, I literally don't know any other way to just do stuff. And I have what has been called a bias for action, which is I'll say, yeah, okay, I may look stupid, I may not know what I'm doing, but okay, I'll do it, I don't mind. This, to me, is today's gospel. And again, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's to me, I'm hearing, just go ahead. Do you know everything? Oh, heck no. Do you I'm not even an Episcopal at this point. Not yet, I'm going to be, but I'm not. But what the hey? Yeah, it is going to happen, yes. But why not? I know I have. Yeah. Is there a driving test? Anyway, I digress. Yeah. Yes. I never did.
I'm getting ready to retire in August, and that spoke to me as well too, because I want to start doing a whole lot of things with the church that I haven't been able to do because I work 2 jobs, and so I'm dropping those 2 jobs and wanting to do whatever I can for the church, and I have that same thought, that same calling that you have. Yeah.
Anyone else? resident young person, do you mind? I'm sorry, I hate to put, but you're in a different spot than most of us. What is that? Does it? And if it doesn't, that's fine. But does it say anything to you in particular?
I feel like, because this is my last summer here, so I feel like kind of going into college, it kind of makes me realize that, oh, this is a new place. I'm the unexperienced person now. So it's kind of making me think, let me look out for people who are like that, people who have tasks given to them, to help people who are unexperienced like me in different places. And my dad was telling me this, or he tells me this like every week now, I feel like. He says, do not say no. I mean, of course, say no to the dumb stuff, but don't say no to anything that might help make you an experienced person and will help you kind of be able to be one of those people who can help the unexperienced people in that sense.
If only those words had been able to land with everybody going to college, I'll say, or even just leaving high school for whatever is next. I don't know about anybody else here, but I went in terrified that I was going to, not even be able to do the work that the classes demanded, and so extracurricular. Oh no. Yeah, no is not a great one. Give yourself some grace, but yeah, no is not. No is it's way too easy to just shut them all down. So good on you, Dad.
I think that was wise advice for any transition.
Oh yes, yeah.
Good advice for any transition for the retired person or for someone about to become a parent or someone. There are just so many transitions we go through, so that was really good advice.
Others, we all heard the gospel. Now we heard it probably more than we've ever heard it in one day. Is it telling you anything? I'm not usually very patient, but I'm just going to let that one hang there for a minute. Is it telling you anything?
I think it's a call to action. I mean, it the reading where we stop, basically it says, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. And I think we can all put that in our own current day terms and realize that oftentimes we don't feel equipped for whatever we're being asked to do, but we all have gifts and talents. And I think, however it means to cure the sick of the people in your lives, or, those that are, quote, dead in all the ways that we fall asleep to things. I think we all have the gifts and talents to do it, but it's challenging for all of us to wake up enough to recognize it and go do it, which is easier said than done.
Comfort zone, that stepping out of it, no matter where you are in life, we're not alone, right? We're never alone. That we can do that with confidence, we can do that with grace, and we can do it together.
Very, very well said. Anyone else?
Okay, so for me, Cairo's prison ministry is witnessing all this. Just for dead, they're not physically dead, but they're spiritually dead, spiritually sick. And you watch God work in their lives in a 4-day weekend, and you change them from a gangster to somebody that loves Christ. And it's amazing to see. We always need help. Step out of your comfort zone and come into prison with me, and you'll enjoy seeing God work in men's lives or women's lives if we go into the women's prison.
Thank you. Thank you for your ministry. The clear follow-up to that, it's on the page, but it also just makes sense, is how are you going to respond? We asked once, first thing was, what are you hearing? What's it saying? The second one is, how are you yourself going to respond? And I'm not looking to challenge everybody to tell me what your action plan, but it's a question. And I invite you all, invite us all, to think about what are we going to do? I get one free pass because I chose to sit up here, but that wasn't even, that's funny, that was last week when Tony was asking about it. But what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think the challenging thing about being in a church and asking yourself that is you need to figure out what you're called to do, not just they have a vacancy and they need somebody to, you're going to step in and fill that spot if you're not called to do that. So I think prayerfully, that's what I've been doing. I'm new here, prayerfully trying to decide what God's calling me to do here and not just where they need an extra body. So
I think you've made a point, maybe 2 points, because the other that I just heard, and I think about this a lot, is I'm always I find myself more than willing to do something that somebody asks me to do. You know, you need them mow the lawn, whatever it is. Sure, man, I'm in. What are you going to do? What are your plans? What are you going to do? Frozen face. It's like, it's almost like either so many things you can do, you end up not doing anything, or it's just like, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And so that puts God, we talk about God not being a puppet master and that we have free will and all, which is all true, right? But then I kind of go and say, great, just make them go. Tell me where you need them, and I'll be there. And it's like, that's the bigger challenge, I think, sometimes. And I'm not sure that you said that specific. I heard that, though. Yeah.
if you're going to respond, you want to be responding. You want to respond to where He's calling you to be.
It's a big deal. Others, how are you going to respond? Anyone? Well, please.
So we've got big goals, but I think for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to HEB, and I hope that anybody that I come across, they're going to see God. They're going to see the Christian life. And it's one thing to think, I'm the only one around here that's picking up a little piece of trash, or I'm going to smile at a baby, or I may help somebody else that's shorter than me. There are very few of you, but reach something tall. I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna know that I'm really not the only one. Everybody in here is doing it too. And when we pay it forward, somebody else is going to do it. And it just, it's going to grow. It started with 1 and went to 12, and now we're at millions.
Well said. Is it something about, preach, always use words when necessary, something like, I not only do I not know where I'm paraphrasing, but I'm badly paraphrasing, but act. We can talk, and talking is good. I do plenty of that. But acting is such a big, and giving yourself the credit, or the grace, I'll use the word grace, for the fact that, that's a thing. That is not just breathing and shopping. That's a real
Not
thing.
raising the dead, but hey, you know what? I can get that can of peas.
Yep. And if you can get cut off in traffic and have some compassion, or there's that word, have some grace for the person who did it, and think about maybe they're having a tough day. Now, I'm not pretending that I or anybody does that all the time, or even some of the time, most of the time, some of the time, whatever. But it is amazing how differently the world looks when you're in this kind of that flow where if you're thinking about that, if you're in that mode, giving people a break is a whole lot easier. It just really is. So I'm mindful, and I know the next service starts at 11:15, and we're at 11:02. We're going to end this with just a little contemplation, praise and gratitude. And I'm just gonna decide here. I'd like us to just take a minute and be thinking about what you are thankful for, what came from this gospel reading, what's come from Demery's sermon, what's come from our conversation this morning. And I'm just going to give that a minute or two. I doubt it'll be two. I'm not that good at it. And then we'll close this with a prayer. So just take a second here. Lord Jesus, we thank you for the time this morning, from gathering and hearing the beautiful music from Nick and Stacy and just the ministry in general, from a worship service which speaks, from Demery, who gave a very thoughtful, thought-filled sermon, for Julian, who I think a lot of us are still just coming to know what a wondrous person she was and is, to this room here, where we've had a chance to slow down, or at least take time to look just at one thing for a while, and maybe try to look at it from a few angles, have a chance to just throw it around for a while and see what it looks like after some good discussion. To know that we are held in your arms. To know that we have wonderful clergy here that guide and support us, and that we ourselves are thoughtful, thought-filled people and can ask and can answer and can contemplate and even speculate. And for all those that we are impacting today and every day in our families, in the aisles of HEB, and everywhere we go, to just simply recognize that we are your servants, we are your children. And from 1 to 12 to a couple of millennia later, the millions and even maybe more than 1 billion of us that we are, and to all those who follow you, that you will hold us, guide us. We thank you for the opportunity to love you, to love one another, which probably really is exactly the same thing. And all this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, y'all.